Okay, this selection, this is called Father-Daughter Fatty Dench. For a wedding last week, the funk band had to learn a song by Paul Simon called Father and Daughter. It's a very lovely tune, very Paul Simon-y, from the movie The Wild Thornberrys. It was nominated for an Oscar. Anyway, we learned this song for the Father-Daughter dance. Dale asked me to sing it because he had a killer week and I was more than happy to learn it. Now, usually when we play either the first dance, or the father-daughter dance, or the mother-son dance, we'll cut the selected song down to a few minutes. This usually is just enough time to have the photographers take shots and not drag the entire evening down. With the Paul Simon tune, we decided to end it after the second chorus, thereby making the song just under 3 minutes. Now, keep in mind that I'm playing drums and reading the lyrics and singing the tune, and about 90 seconds into it, I start hearing MJ say, "The bride is signaling to end it." I can't really look up because I'm reading the words, and as soon as Andy starts echoing what MJ is saying, the bride has had enough. MJ saying the bride's had enough. Now, let me ask you this. If you're so fucking uncomfortable dancing with your father for more than 90 seconds on your wedding day, why the fuck would you decide to have a father-daughter dance in the first place? Am I nuts here? Yes, I understand that you're alone on the dance floor and everyone is watching and you don't want it to drag on, but it wasn't like they had selected Inagata Devita and we were just starting the drum solo. It's a beautiful Paul Simon tune whose sentiment is, "There will never be a father loved his daughter more than I love you." Nice. Buck up. Wait for the chorus. It'll be over soon enough. We're already cutting it short. Enjoy your father's company. Jeez. Later in the night, we had a great example of quote-unquote itching to sit in-ness. Here's the deal. Our lovely saxophonist, our lovely saxophonist, Larry, often sets up a small percussion rig. Yeah, couldn't be Larry, right? Our lovely saxophonist, Larry, often sets up a small percussion rig next to his saxes so that he can add some percussive color when he's not saxorizing. Sometimes guests assume that this is set up for either their kids or for them and just grab sticks and play. These people should be shot. No trial, just shot. Or at least the kids that fuck with the gear under the full supervision of their parents should be forced to intern with Mark Foley. Anyway, we have a cool feature, speaking of Paul Simon, where we segue in between Call Me Al and Late in the Evening. Late in the Evening is fun to play because it's the only song where I get to legitimately use 2 sticks in each hand for a grand total of 4, while trying to replicate the legendary Steve Gadd drum part. Fun. Okay, we finished the tune and a woman who looks like Judi Dench's much fatter, slightly older sister asks Andy Kay what those last 2 songs were. He says, Call Me Al and Late in the Evening. She says, "Oh, I'm a percussionist," pointing at Larry's rig, "and I like those songs." Okay, alarms go off in my mind. First, what the fuck kind of percussionist wouldn't know Call Me Al? I could maybe understand not knowing Late in the Evening, even though it's one of the most famous, among drummers, songs ever recorded by Steve Gadd, second only to like 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. But if you were conscious during the 80s, you know Call Me Al. Even without being a percussionist. Second, I think to myself, she wants to play. Fuck. Quick note. People want to sit in with the band all the time. There is a direct, inverse proportional relationship to how good a musician is to how good they say they are. A good musician will never tell you he or she is good. A real musician will never, ever, never, never, ever, ever, never tell you he is really good. Trust me, never, ever. Anyway, so during the next set, we're playing some friggin' tune and she, Fatty Dench, comes over to the band, picks up a pair of sticks, and starts playing along. Well, maybe she's a percussionist with the Whitey Whiteman All-White Orchestra and Chartered Accountants Review. And maybe she was taught how to hold a drumstick by some walrus with Down syndrome. And maybe her rhythmic pedagogy is based on some Sumatran polyrhythmic concept that is so far beyond the scope of Western music that we all just didn't get it. Or maybe she was lying and once saw a percussionist. What made this all the more interesting is that by the end of the evening, someone had approached the band and asked if we were aware that the woman playing percussion, playing being their term, standing next to being ours, was a nun. Oh yeah, a nun. Sweet. This corpulent chick who claims to be a percussionist was lying. I guess that's what happens to you after having your snatch pounded by Jesus for all those years. You get all mush-brained and start assuming that you can do things that you have no affinity for. Nice. Here's the epilogue. The gig ended and the majority of the guests left the hall. There's always some stragglers, but by this point the house is tearing down, the vacuums come out, the cleanup begins, and needless to say, we in the band tend to get post-gig loopy, goofy, silly, wonky, fuck nut crazy. Maybe it's because we have to be on our best behavior for 6 hours that we finally just release it all once the guests have left. Sorry, but I'm often just not responsible for my behavior during wonked out cleanup time. It's a serious, deep mental disorder over which I have no control. Imagine the feeling you get when you haven't slept for 2 days and then you eat a box of Malamars. It's kind of like that. That being said, as we were packing up, I put a wrapped up mic cable on my head. If you're unaware, a wrapped up mic cable from a distance has an uncanny resemblance to a crown of thorns. I had it on my head, put my arms out to my side and said, "Phew, what a gig!" MJ told me that Fatty Dench was at the door, and again, everyone had left by this point, and was looking at me. That was all I needed to hear. I grabbed the tambourine, which is crescent-shaped, and held it behind my head, halo-like. Andy Quartz then took his mic stand and extended it out to make a makeshift cross. I put my non-tambourine arm across the mic stand and again said, "Sheesh, what a gig!" Fatty Dench left in a huff. Sweet. Some gigs I don't even feel the need to be paid for.